Hey horror fans, welcome back to Room 237, coming at you with another zombie review. And this time I'm doing one of the granddaddy zombie films, Dawn of the Dead, or 1978. One of the best zombie movies ever made. This is the zombie movie that everyone thinks of when they hear zombie movie, especially classic. This is the one that they all ripped off, Dawn of the Dead. George Romero's sequel to his 1968 film Night of the Living Dead. And this is usually looked at as the greatest zombie movie ever made. I'm still partial to Night of the Living Dead over this, but I still think this is a great movie. Now, this was made and came out 10 years after Night, and everyone knows the story. A small group of people holed up in a shopping mall during a zombie apocalypse. Everything's going great until it doesn't, and it's them in the mall, which is probably the best setting for a zombie film. Of course, it was remade 2004 by Zack Snyder. I don't know if I'm going to review that for the zombie marathon, because I do want to do like a remake marathon, for better or worse. Maybe I'll save it for that. But I mean, what can be said about Dawn of the Dead that hasn't been said already? I mean, this is just a random special edition. For some reason, this movie keeps going out of print. Like, a lot of people can't buy this. It's not publicly available. I know like Blu-rays and stuff go for like $100 on Amazon. I don't know why this movie keeps going out, but it does. Another noteworthy thing is that Dario Argento was very, very, lack of a better term, very instrumental, I guess, in getting this made. I think he was a producer. And instrumental is no pun intended, because he also did the music with Goblins, who did music for a lot of his films. And I got to give this movie credit for even how it starts off, because most sequels, especially to a popular movie like Night of the Living Dead, it would open up with something like, years ago, the dead started getting up and feeding on the flesh of the living, and it would set itself up. This movie doesn't set itself up. It opens up in a TV studio with people saying zombies are everywhere. It jumps right into it. It's like, okay, a George Romero Dead film. It's a sequel. It's zombies. We're not fucking around. We're not wasting your time. We're diving right into it. So I give it credit for that. You have our four main characters. You have Fran, played by Galen Ross. She is dating Steven, who is nicknamed Flyboy, played by David Emge. He's a pilot. Then our other two characters is Peter, played by Ken Foree, and Roger, played by Scott Reiniger. Which I always think Roger is played by the lead guy in Just Before Dawn. He was also the mayor in Slither. I always think it's the same guy, but it's not. Roger is friends with Fran and Flyboy, and they're gonna leave together. Steven's like, to hell with these people, because the TV studio is falling apart. It's going off the air. He's like, we just gotta leave. Roger is a SWAT member, and they're at some like inner city slum just shooting zombies. You get a great head explosion. Not as good as Scanners or Maniac, but still a pretty good head explosion. That's where we see Peter, played by Ken Foree. And Roger and Peter quickly become friends. He invites him along. They get a helicopter. They make one stop for fuel. There's a couple zombies. And then they make it to the mall. And, it's pretty, for a running time of 127 minutes, 2 hours, 7 minutes, you really got to be pretty methodical and interesting to keep people engaged. Because once they get to the mall, it's very long scenes of them killing the zombies that are in there, blocking off the entrances with trucks, cleaning up the inside, which they store the inside zombies in the freezer with the food, which never made sense. And then, they just claim their castle. There's a part where, Ken Foray he's trying on watches. Fran is trying on dresses. They have a big steak dinner. They really live the high life because money doesn't exist anymore. There's even this great scene with Flyboy and Peter. They go to the bank and they take out a bunch of money. They like shake hands and they look up at the camera. It's like they're stealing the money, but it doesn't matter. And I think the whole point of the movie is, you can have the greatest fortress during an epidemic like this, but eventually you're going to get bored. Because eventually that does sort of happen. It's like these people they're stuck. They just have to wait it out. Even though the mall is an oasis of unlimited resources. They kind of get bored because it's just the four of them. And it is kind of methodical because they set up their quarters in like a storage room, like the spam room. But as the movie goes on, they bring in furniture, they bring in rugs, they bring in home deco. They decorate the place. So as the movie goes on, it becomes more and more homey. Like, it doesn't say 2 weeks later, 6 weeks later. You just kind of have to go with the film that time has passed. That's usually how I look at it, is how the room has changed. And then eventually there's a group of bikers, led by Tom Savini, who realize, they must have everything in there. And they trash the place. They come in with their bikes, they trash everything, they let a bunch of zombies in. You get great zombie mayhem. And, shit hits the fan, and eventually characters have to leave. Which I will say, I've been seeing on Facebook this meme of LL Cool J from Deep Blue Sea saying, 20 years ago today, LL Cool J was the first black man to survive an entire horror movie. 19 years ago, Ken Foray was the first black man to survive a horror movie. If you're a black guy in a George Romero film, you can feel pretty safe. Yeah, Dwayne Jones was killed at the end of Night, but he survived the zombie ordeal. Ken Foray lives. And Ken Foray is definitely they all have brains. All four of them are pretty smart characters. Ken Foray is definitely a no bullshit kind of guy. None of them really have arcs, like character arcs, I guess, except for Fran, because when it opens up, she's kind of submissive and weak, the way women were probably portrayed in films back then. But she grows. She wants to learn how to shoot a gun. She wants to learn how to fly the helicopter, which they keep up on the roof, in case anything should happen. So I guess she has the most traditional arc. And I will say, this is definitely the most lighthearted out of George Romero's Dead films. Because even when the bikers break in and let all the zombies in, they're pieing zombies in the face. So, they're having fun making the movie, and they're making light of the situation. But at the same time, for me, it kind of gets rid of the horror, kind of eliminates the threat a little bit. Even though there's this one guy who sticks his arm in a fucking blood pressure thing, even though zombies are all around him. And of course, they fucking kill him. The gore in this movie is splendid. I think this became a video nasty. Great gore. You got intestines, you got skin being ripped apart. I don't think any of it was scripted because this movie was so low budget. Like, for example, before they get to the mall, they stop to get fuel, and there's a zombie um, who's like going after Roger as he's fueling up the helicopter. And he steps up on these crates, and one of the blades cuts the top of his head off, killing his brain, and he dies. So I think it was just more of George Romero just looking at Tom Savini being like, how can we graphically kill someone in this scene? And I will say the zombies don't look the best. They're very blue or very gray, which this is one of Tom Savini's first movies. I think before this he did Martin, which was a George Romero vampire movie. So this was one of his first films, and I don't think he really had a crew, and he had to make a bunch of zombies, so maybe like through budget and just human working things. Yeah, the zombies don't look that great. Some of them do. Like, there's a part where Roger... It's weird because Roger gets bitten and it takes him a while to turn into a zombie. But when he does, like, Roger looks great. When Flyboy turns into a zombie, he's one of the best zombies ever. Just... The actor really puts his body on the line. I love... He's in an elevator. He's bitten, but then when the doors open, his eyes are rolled back in his head. His jaw's down. He's all gray and blue, and he's just kind of... And his foot is always, like, turned like this. Like, he has this funky walk. He has a 6-shooter that's just, like, dangling on his finger. So Flyboy looks really cool, but there's a lot of other zombies that are just really gray or really blue. Not the best looking. But then again, it was one of Savini's first movies. I mean, once you get to, like, Day of the Dead, the zombie effects look fantastic. But then, some of the other really memorable deaths, like, there's one iconic shot, because Tom Savini's character always carries around a machete. There's this one zombie with his mouth open, and he gives him a machete to the head, which I know, I think it's a grindcore band named Cancer. They have that shot as one of their album covers and on their t-shirts. Just an iconic shot of that zombie with the machete in his head. And, or even when they're in, the inner city slum, you get a woman that gets this bitten off. The blood is very fluorescent red. I don't know if it's because, it's partly an Italian film that has very fluorescent red Italian film blood. Which there's even a part where Roger, he's in a truck and one gets shot and blood goes all over him and even gets in his mouth. So I guess it doesn't turn you that way. But I really like the scenes where it's them in the mall. They're just doing whatever they want. They're grocery shopping even though they don't have money. It kind of brings humanity to the film. There's not a whole lot of cinematic shots, except for like when it shows some zombies walking around the parking lot. It pans out, and then it pans out, so you can see how big the scale is. Because George Romero, he's not a very Hollywood director. He just kind of shoots from the hip and makes his movies in the editing room. He's just like, we'll make that shot work. So he's more known for his editing style than his directing style. But still, this is a great movie. I really like it. It's one of his longer ones, which actually, it's longer than Day of the Dead. But it's never boring. It never drags. The zombie scenes are well placed. Just when it's about to get boring or nothing happens, then like the bikers break in and all the zombies come in. The gore looks great. Like when they rip people open, there's like intestines and shit. The cast, They're, even though they don't really have a character arc, they're believable people. Ken Foray and the guy that plays Flyboy and Roger and Fran, they're all believable people. They're all smart. And yeah, this movie's just a fucking classic. The zombies may not look the best, and some parts might be really goofy, like when they're pieing zombies in the face. But, you know, especially compared to his other Dead films, it's definitely the most fun. I mean, I would say Night is scarier, this is more fun, Day is just bleak. The ending is ambiguous, you know, I mean, characters who are surviving, there's like, how much fuel do we have? And they're like, not much, and they're like, see where it takes us, and then it ends. So it ends on somewhat of a hopeful note, but not exactly. Dawn of the Dead, it's a classic, I love it. It's nothing I watch a lot, but every time I do, I'm just reminded of how great of a movie this is. Definitely one of the best zombie movies ever. Again, they're not the best looking, but it's 1978. There wasn't really a whole lot to build off of. I think this was the first major zombie film to be in color. But yeah, fucking classic. So for Room 237, that is Dawn of the Dead. Thank you for watching.